I'm Lucy Frost. I'm a precinct chair in Travis County, and I also do executive presence coaching. Progress Texas is the Paul Revere of progress in Texas. This is where you find out what's coming down the pike and what we need to do about it. Keep on keeping on. It ain't over till it's over, and it ain't over. We're not going away.
Damn straight, Lucy. It's Thursday, March 12, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch Rapid Response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Here at Progress Texas, we have built a statewide audience and reach millions of Texans monthly, and that's thanks to folks like you who invest in independent progressive media by Texans for Texans. Huge thanks going out to John Byam, Ruth Kurzweil Milburn, and Clayton Tucker for their ongoing sustaining support. We appreciate it. Senator John Cornyn has emerged over the last day or two as a significant threat to the integrity of the 2026 midterm election, out of his own sense of self-preservation, really, as opposed to any semblance of policy or ethical standards he might himself still pretend to harbor, in a desperate attempt to gain the endorsement of Donald Trump in his primary runoff race against Attorney General Ken Paxton, who by one recent poll leads Cornyn by a sufficient margin to render such an endorsement from Trump likely ineffective anyway. Cornyn has reversed himself on a key long-term protection of the minority party in the U.S. Senate. That's the filibuster, in order to give Donald Trump a tool to use against American voters in his attempt to preserve the largely unfettered power he's most recently used to unilaterally plunge the Middle East into war. That's the Save America Act. Gabby Birnbaum at the Texas Tribune writes that Cornyn announced via a New York Post op-ed yesterday that he is now willing to eliminate the filibuster to secure passage of the Save America Act, a major departure and complete reversal from the stance he held on the matter just this time last week and for years prior to that. Cornyn is now arguing that Senate Democrats have already undermined the filibuster, which historically requires 60 votes to end debate, and saying that he now supports killing it in order to bypass the Democratic minority's opposition and send the Save America Act to Trump to sign. It's already passed the House. It would mandate arduous new levels of individual documentary proof of citizenship for voter registration and for voting itself. Donald Trump has not been shy about why he insists on this legislation passing. He sees it as a way to, quote, guarantee the midterms, unquote, for the GOP, and has said that the Republicans, naturally including himself, are in, quote, big trouble, unquote, if the Save America Act fails to pass. As we know, John Cornyn can't himself just toss the filibuster into the dustbin, so how close is it to being undermined really? Hans Nichols at Axios says Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota is exploring an extended floor debate in the Senate on the Save America Act, in his view, to force Democrats to publicly confront and oppose this bill. Personally, I'm very much looking forward to what the likes of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders might have to say about it. There is reason for very cautious optimism at the moment. Thune is considering this maneuver as an attempt to address immense pressure he's under from Trump and his widespread cult of minions. But the fact remains that the Senate lacks the necessary votes to overcome the 60-vote filibuster threshold or successfully implement a talking filibuster, while the GOP conference remains deeply divided on the wisdom of doing away with the filibuster for this one thing. And for the moment, there's generally support and sympathy for Senator Thune in regard to the tough spot he's in, wedged between Donald Trump and, reality, which for the moment is still on our side. But Donald Trump is desperate, and Donald Trump is determined, and he's still got 236 days to work on this. Democrats across Texas are looking forward to the state party convention this June in Corpus Christi, but a looming water crisis is what's brought the sparkling city by the sea to the headlines lately. Corpus's water worries have reached a critical stage, with city officials warning that the region faces a potential water emergency within months and the risk of a total system depletion as early as next year. All of this the result of a protracted 5-year drought, combined with rapid and, in the rearview mirror, ill-advised and very thirsty local industrial, petrochemical, and energy expansion. Local Corpus Christi leadership, for a variety of debatable reasons, has come well short of devising and or following through with any solid plan to address any part of the crisis. A proposed seawater desalination plant has been scrapped, and a recently approved $1 billion investment in groundwater and reclaimed water infrastructure is still largely on the drawing board and years away from coming into full operation. Benjamin Wormand at the Houston Chronicle says Governor Greg Abbott has a plan, the same that he's placed on school districts in large Texas cities whose politics he dislikes, a state takeover of the management of Corpus Christi's water system. Abbott accuses local city leaders of indecision and of squandering state funds granted to address the water crisis. Allegations those local Corpus leaders say is misleading. A formal state takeover would not only be unprecedented, it's also unlikely to make much difference. The governor might possess emergency authority, but as far as we know, he doesn't have a magic water wand. While politicians point fingers, severe water service curtailment could begin in Corpus Christi as early as May, ahead of the aforementioned June Texas Democratic Party convention. And for those of you who might be tempted to dismiss all of this water worry as somebody else's problem far away from where you live, do take note that the Edwards Aquifer, which provides water to San Antonio, New Braunfels, San Marcos, Uvalde, Del Rio, and South Austin, is close to what they call a Stage 4 emergency response period, which is as bad as the scale gets and has never before been declared. Sammy Seaman at the Austin Chronicle says that would also come with mandatory use curtailments. Shay Halavity, Communications and Outreach Manager at the Barton Springs Edwards Aquifer Conservation District, says that after several years of below-average rain across central Texas, quote, "We're basically missing an entire year's worth of rainfall at this point," unquote. And finally, this morning, y'all, there's new group analysis from reporters at the New York Times on what happens in the video of the federal immigration agent-involved killing of Ruben Ray Martinez last year in South Padre Island, quietly released by Texas DPS late last Friday, noting that there appears to be confusion between the officers representing several law enforcement agencies leading up to the moment of the fatal shooting. To summarize, as Martinez approached the intersection where he died, officers observed an open container of alcohol in his car, and while some ordered him to stop, others ordered him to proceed, which he did. Martinez slowed as he approached pedestrians in a crosswalk and then pulled into the intersection, stopping again amidst more conflicting commands from law enforcement. As Martinez then attempted to turn left, federal agents approached his car, one agent reaching for the driver's side door, another standing in front of his car. When the vehicle began to move slowly forward, the agent on the driver's side, in no danger of being hit himself, fired 3 shots into Martinez's body through the open driver's side window. Officers then pulled Martinez from the car and handcuffed him on the ground, where he laid bleeding out for at least a minute before any resuscitation was attempted. This New York Times report is the first I've seen identifying the agent who shot Ruben Ray Martinez, Jack C. Stevens, an agent who works for Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI, which operates under ICE. Another officer with that same agency, Hector Sosa, is the agent that officials have claimed to have been struck by Martinez's vehicle, which again is never shown in the video moving beyond a braked crawl. Pictures and more details on the New York Times analysis of what's now considered the first killing of a U.S. citizen by federal immigration agents during the second Donald Trump term are linked in the show notes. Progress Texas is expanding our top-rated podcast network to include Spanish-speaking media to increase the reach of our progressive messages daily. Hit the link in the show notes to make your donation towards Spanish media today. If you're listening in the Houston area before 10 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, be sure to tune in to KPFT 90.1 FM at 10 a.m. every Friday morning to catch this weekend's edition of our In Progress Roundtable show. Progress Texas is proud to join the lineup of the legendary KPFT radio in Houston, and that we're now reaching a lot more voters in Texas's largest and most diverse city. With your support, we hope to expand our radio footprint beyond Houston to the top 5 Texas media markets this year. Hit that link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas radio right now. We appreciate it. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, March 12, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.